all politics is local, all economy is local too. Until those wingnuts up there in Washington D.C. can understand that, they're not going to pull us out of this solution, because all economy is local.
That's right, and you know, we've also you're talking about those windmills pumping the water out. You know, it's a pretty simple device to separate the hydrogen from the water. It's a pretty simple system to clear off the underbrush out of the forest near you, and make compost out of it, and make methane, and run. You know, the guy in France was running his all of his vehicles on the methane he created from clearing the forest.
Yeah. There are so many solutions to some of the problems that we're not going to get the answers out of Washington, because they can't see beyond the dollars they want to spend on themselves. We had a company talk to us one time in a meeting about putting in a desalinization plant on the Gulf of Mexico. Not to create fresh water to drink, but to take the salt out of the water, and if Texas was free and had a government with some tax dollars behind it, to put it in a pipeline and pump that water all the way back up to the Edwards Aquifer and release it. Re-aquify the aquifer. Let the aquifer filter it out and clean it. And I thought, common sense is coming from overseas back to Texas. And yet, you think we can get a Washington, D.C. people to understand something like that?
And, no. And when you mentioned the problem we got getting our representatives in Washington, D.C., that we elected to do anything that's good for the American people, big problem there. But imagine how that would be if we had to go to Brussels to present to get a redress of our grievances. And that's what we would end up doing under this whole one world order, new world order, one world government of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers. And that looks to me to be the direction that we're headed in. That's what I put in the Free American 20 years ago.
Well, and this has happened in every state of the Union, because the United States federal government is undermining the authority and the sovereignty of your states. Okay, whenever they offered that stimulus plan, our governor here in Texas said, no, we don't want it, because it's wrong. It's wrong it's wrong to have created a stimulus plan like that to bail out banks. It's wrong to create a stimulus plan to pull us out of the problems that banks created. And he turned it down. So the federal government comes in and undermines his authority, Austin's authority, and goes directly to the city mayors holding out the money. What are they going to do? They're broke too, because they're broke because of the economy Washington created. And yeah, they're taking the stimulus money without permission of the state. Now, something's lost in the translation there when you got 50 state senators supposed to be protecting the interests of the states. And all they're doing is sitting back and watching they're buying votes for them.
Now, tell me about Rick Perry. He's the governor, right? No?
He is right now.
Yeah. Do you miss George Bush?
I don't miss George Bush. He's not a Texan. He never was. He's a carpetbagger out of Connecticut. He needs to move back out there where he belongs, take his one world order theories out there with him, and let Texas alone.
What is Perry's stance? And talk to me about the people. Now, I'm just to make you aware, I'm bringing the Free American back out. I'm not doing it on paper. I'm doing it electronically, and I'm going to do it monthly. And if you will get me it'll be in a PDF form, so you can print it out, 10 copies. Probably about 12 pages at a time, and that may grow. You can print it out and make copies and pass it out to your neighbors. And one of the first stories in that magazine, my new magazine, will be on the Texas nationalist movement. I want a full page ad, because I'm just one man. I'm just reporting. I'm having people like you on my show because you're doing something. You're trying to do something that's good for the American people and the people of Texas. And, I feel like I'm Texan in exile over here in Tucson, so I want to come home.
Well, if you were Sam Houston, you'd have thought you were home. 'cause he considered that Texas too. He really did. Because when the question of annexation came up, they asked him to produce a map of Texas. He produced two maps, one if they did annex, one if they didn't. And the one if they didn't was including all the land all the way to the Pacific coast.
Yeah, I said we never should have given up the Rocky Mountains, and when I lived in Bingham, New Mexico, I was still on the Republic side of the river, so. But I'm bringing the Free American back out, and I intend to show, I'm not taking advertising, so except voluntarily, you know, and because I'm not going to promote something to my readers and to my listeners that I don't completely approve of and that I don't know about.
Well, I don't understand why there's not more states and movements inside those states moving towards secession than there are now. Arizona should have a strong movement for secession. They are being used as much as Texas is. You know, we're very, very upset over this cap and trade nonsense that's coming through, because all it's going to do is hurt our local economy even worse, because we have met every standard that the feds have given us over the past 40 years as far as keeping the air clean, and yet they come back and want to tax us for having it kept clean again. You know, first George Bush started this cap and trade, and now that was the Republican side. Now the Democrats are going to do it all over again. And it's nothing but a tax on the local economy. It's all it amounts to. It serves no purpose other than to put money in the coffers of Washington, D.C. It's not got one thing that's cleaning up the air. You know, if you want to create a regulation or a type of industry or a corporation that just says you're going to clean this air up to this, that's one thing. Now, cleaning the air, that's direct.
You know,
there's no ambiguity about it.
Well, this
if I can sell my dirty air to Rhode Island, hey, look how much money I made, and then the feds can tax it.
I did a story the other day. The snow on the mountaintops of Mount Shasta is poisonous. Let me ask you, what would the Texas nationalist movement, if you came to power here, what would you do about these chemtrails that's going on? I mean, these planes are putting out aluminum and barium into our water, onto our fields. The crops are showing signs of stress from something. You got honeybees dying.
We probably got scientists in Texas that know what they're doing to begin with, that will finally be able to come forward and tell us why they're doing it. And of course, if you're your own nation, your government's not going to allow it. You know, the local government of France, I'm sure, does not allow us barium trails in their country. You know, and they get some anyway because the United States flies over it. You know. First thing I'd like to see is Texas to stop the flyovers. You know, go around. We don't want your crap. Keep our air clean.
That's right. That's right.
I'm just joking there because Texas has. If you know, you've been to DFW Airport.
Absolutely.
It's not an airport. That's a whole city, folks. That's huge. It's a port of entry, and those type of creations, which Fort Worth and Dallas joined hands on and created. The project, many years to realize a profit on it. It's been one of the best